All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started today. Second, I have some technical difficulties here, which is nothing new for those of you who have been in our webinars before, you know. But I want to thank you all for coming today, being with us. This is kind of an exciting webinar because this is the first time in a really long time that we have had friends from our legal department presenting with us. So we are really excited to have Ozma Keeler, who is a staff attorney, with us. She joined the ACLU of Colorado earlier in 2020, but she was with the ACLU of Wisconsin for 3 years prior to joining us, where she worked on cases about access to healthcare for transgender state employees, fighting against cruel and unusual punishment of juveniles, and protecting First Amendment rights, which is what we're doing today. We also have with us Arielle Herzberg, who is another staff attorney, and she's been with us officially as a staff attorney for about a year now, but she was with us way before that as a fellow, and yeah, Arielle's been around for a while. But before that, Arielle worked in New York City at Simpson, Thatcher, and Bartlett, and before that, she was a law clerk for Judge Stanley Chesler. So I'm going to turn it over to them so they can run through this wonderful presentation they have planned for us. And just keep yourselves on mute. It's kind of hard sometimes when our presenters are presenting if there's background noise. If we do hear a lot of background noise, we'll put you on mute. No offense. And if you have questions, put them in the chat. We have a couple of us who are going to be monitoring the chat as we go along. So go ahead and take it away.
Hey, Delana, do we want to ask folks to drop their name and pronouns and location in the chat? All right.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, my name is Delana. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the director of campaigns here. I always forget to introduce myself. So thanks, Julian.
Okay, my name is Wayne Johnson. Oh, please go ahead.
Just go ahead and put that in the chat. In the chat box.
Very good.
So thanks everyone for joining us. My name's Arielle Herzberg. Thanks, Delana, for the introduction. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a staff attorney at the ACLU of Colorado. It's so great to see everyone on here, especially those of you who we've been corresponding with about situations at your HOAs. Really nice to see you and really nice to see your interest in this bill. Okay, so we're going to talk about HB 21-1310 today, which is a bill to protect homeowners' freedom of expression. What this bill does is it allows residents of HOAs to display flags or signs that express their own views on their own property. And it prohibits HOAs from regulating signs and flags on the basis of their message. HOAs can still restrict the number, location, or signs or size of signs or flags, but those restrictions need to be content neutral. They can't restrict signs or flags based on the message of the sign or the flag.
Hi, everyone. Like Delana said, I'm Ozma Keeler. I'm a staff attorney as well. Thanks to everyone for being here. I know most of you are probably familiar with this already because of your interest in the issue, but we thought it might be helpful to give a little bit of background on homeowners associations or HOAs in general. Most homes in the state of Colorado, but especially the vast majority of new homes and new constructions, are governed by HOAs. HOAs operate as, private corporations, though they are technically nonprofits. But this means that they're governed by their own bylaws, articles, rules and regulations, and other legally documents that set forth rules and regulations for the governing of an HOA. HOAs also have boards, which are typically comprised of homeowners who are elected by other homeowners, but the size and makeup of an HOA board may vary based on your HOA. HOAs are also regulated by state statute and state laws, such as the Colorado Revised Nonprofit Corporation Act and the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, the latter of which we'll discuss a little bit further on into this presentation.
So as many of you know, many residents of HOAs have recently discovered that their HOAs prohibit them from displaying signs or flags on their own property. And HOA rules that have these prohibitions in them are typically found in the Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions for the HOA, which is also known as the CC&Rs, or in community guidelines, sometimes in both. From what we've seen a bunch of HOAs that prohibit all signs or flags, some HOAs that prohibit most signs or flags, but specifically allow certain signs or flags. Like there's some HOAs that allow holiday flags and sports flags, but not other things. And then there's some HOAs that prohibit signs and flags unless the resident gets approval from some board or review committee. And when that happens, a lot of the times the board has unbridled discretion to decide whether to allow or prohibit certain signs or flags. And they do decide whether to allow or prohibit certain flags just based on the content of those flags. When the HOAs restrict signs or flags, they often cite the current statute regarding HOA sign restrictions, and they interpret that statute to mean that they can restrict signs or flags based on content. So Asma is going to talk a little bit more about the current statute and why HOAs have interpreted that to mean that they can restrict signs or flags based on content.
So the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, also known as Kiowa, and the provision that you guys see in front of you here is where the HOAs are deriving their authority from to say that there are these blanket prohibitions on signs and flags and that the statute allows it. The reality is that Kiowa and this provision prevents HOAs from prohibiting the display of certain types of flags. The state statute expressly calls out American flags and service flags, which they define to mean service during a time of war or armed conflict. And these things are expressly favored, in addition to political signs, which is sort of narrowly defined in the statute as signs carrying messages intended to influence the outcome of an election. And as I'm sure you know, this leaves a lot of room for discretion and selective enforcement. But this election season, that's sort of what we're calling it, is allowing this prohibition of political signs earlier than 45 days before an election and then 7 days after. And because these specific categories of speech appear in the statute, HOAs have interpreted that to mean that they are free to prohibit everything else. So the general message is that the statute actually says HOAs can't prohibit American flags, service flags, political flags, and signs, but it doesn't say that they can go ahead and prohibit everything else, though they've interpreted the statute to mean that they can. And so one of the things about this new bill is the ability to remedy that interpretation that the HOAs have taken of Kiowa in this section.
So we have heard from people in over 50 HOAs about yard signs and flags that have been prohibited. Those include Black Lives Matter flags, pride flags, thin blue line flags, hate has no home here signs, and other signs as well. And some common things that we have seen happening are, first of all, there's many homeowners that have flown flags and posted signs for many years, never having a problem until recently. Also, there's some homeowners who've recently gotten violation letters because of a certain flag or a sign, but their neighbors who have other flags or signs of a different content may not have gotten the same violation letter. So in that way, there's a selective enforcement problem here that's very common. Another issue that we've seen is that some renters of homes who live in HOAs that allow them to apply for signs or flags are unable to do so because only homeowners, according to the rule, can apply for signs or flags. So renters of homes aren't allowed to apply. One other issue that we've seen, which isn't on the slide, but some HOAs are going as far as restricting people's signs that are in the windows inside of their homes, and saying that those signs aren't allowed, even though they're inside of someone's house.
So the proposed bill would remedy what we're suggesting is a problem with the current statute. The proposed bill will amend the current version of Kiowa to prohibit HOAs from banning or even regulating signs and flags on the basis of their message or content. So it takes away that express favoring of American flags, military flags, political flags. The proposed bill does allow the HOA to establish reasonable regulation on objective or content neutral factors, such as the number, placement, size of the signs and flags. And that's fairly reasonable and common under free expression regulation in communities like these.
Okay, so why does this new bill matter? Well, first of all, the new bill would uphold the free expression provision in the Colorado State Constitution, which is the highest law of this state, and it would uphold the public policy interest in this country and in this state of allowing freedom of expression. Another reason why this bill matters is that we believe the Constitution should protect everyone, regardless of whether they are a resident of an HOA or a resident of a city or municipality, or metro districts. Cities and municipalities and metro districts can't prohibit signs or flags based on content, and we believe that the same thing should apply to HOAs. And finally, other states don't allow HOAs to restrict free expression of homeowners, and we believe that Colorado should follow suit on that.
So we think it might be helpful to show you some success stories and things that we've seen where people have been in similar situations that have gone in the way of protection of speech. So we wanted to share this example out of New Jersey. This is a picture of Mr. Wasim Khan. He lives in a covenant control community in New Jersey where he owns his condominium, and his HOA has a blanket prohibition on political signs. Mr. Khan wanted to run for town council and did, and posted 2 signs in support of his candidacy, one on the inside window of his front door and then a window on his condo, and received violation letters for both signs, saying that it violated the HOA's rules against political signs. So Mr. Khan sued in federal court, and the ACLU of New Jersey, our sister affiliate, filed an amicus brief in support of Mr. Khan's appeal. And so the ACLU in New Jersey argued that an HOA regulation that prohibits all political signs, similar to what we've got going on here in Colorado in many HOAs, is unlawful and unenforceable under the New Jersey Constitution. And ultimately, the New Jersey Supreme Court agreed with them. The court ruled that the HOA's sign policy was unconstitutional and against public policy in the state of New Jersey. So we're happy for Mr. Khan.
Okay. And next, I was going to tell the story of David Pendry, who I see on the Zoom today. So our client, David, wished to display a pride flag at his home in a metro district to convey solidarity with the LGBTQ community. And he also wanted to post a "We Believe" sign. But his metro district, the Whispering Pines Metro District, prohibited him from doing so. So earlier this year, we sued the Metro District for arbitrarily prohibiting residents from displaying certain flags and signs, and we won. And the Metro District rewrote its rules so that it can no longer discriminate based on content. And this bill would basically do the same thing, rewrite the rules for HOAs, and rewrite the rules so that HOAs cannot discriminate based on content when they're enforcing their sign and flag restrictions. So now that you've heard about the bill, I'm going to pass it over to Julian so that he can talk to you a little bit about how to testify.
Yes, thank you, Ariel and Asma. That was really informative, and I learned things that I didn't know previously going to this webinar. So yeah, my name is Julian Camera, and I'm the field organizer here at the ACLU of Colorado. And the bill that our attorneys just went over, HB 1310, it's going to be heard on May 25th at 1:30 p.m. in the House Transportation and Local Government Committee. And we really want to show up and show legislators that Coloradans want this bill to pass. So we're asking the folks on this call, we're asking you to join us and testify in support. So let me just get a feel. Who on this call has testified before in support or opposition of a legislative bill? Just give me a thumbs up or a hand, an emoji. Cool. Yeah, we got some folks. Awesome. Right on. And who on this call is interested in testifying in support of this bill, but maybe has never testified in support, or might want some more information to find out what that actually looks like, might be a little nervous. Cool, we got a few folks. Awesome, great, cool. All right, well, hopefully I can help ease some of your nervousness. Delaney, do you mind going to the next slide? So what is public testimony? Public testimony is a sworn statement of facts by a witness before a legislative committee. So when you show up to testify, you're there to tell the committee your side to a story or an issue and why it's important to you. All legislative committees are open to the public, although not all committees allow public comment. So you can listen in remotely to any committee hearing throughout the whole session. And when a committee does allow public comment, such as the one that we're showing up to on May 25th, anyone can sign up to testify, and legislators have to stay till the very end to hear every testimony. Comments before a committee are a part of public record. So for that reason, it's up to you how detailed you want to get with your testimony. You know, you can tell the general theme of your story without going into details like, you know, names and personal information, or you can give details if you'd like. The main goal is to tell your true story as it relates to the bill. Why testify? Testify, it's an important tactic used by bill advocates to help inform, persuade, and reinforce legislative support of a bill. Next slide. So when you're drafting your testimony, this is like a skill that they don't teach you in school. You have to kind of figure it out just from like being around folks who have testified. So first you want to address the committee. So good afternoon, Chairman Exum is the chairman of the committee we're going to be testifying before. So good afternoon, Chairman Exum and members of the House Transportation and Local Government Committee. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to testify before you today. Next, you want to identify yourself and what you're asking for. So my name is Julian Camera. I'm here to testify in support of HB 1310, or I'm here to ask for your support for HB 1310. Use a real life story. So again, you're a witness to why this bill matters, and you want to tell the committee what you've experienced. Explain why the bill is necessary, how it's going to impact your community, and talk about how it might impact your day-to-day life. If you're submitting written testimony, keep it under 1,500 words. That's about a page. If you're doing live or oral testimony, keep it between 300 to 500 words or under 3 minutes. Legislators will cut you off about the 2.5, 3 minute mark. So you want to be able to get every last word in, especially because a lot of people put their like punchline at the very end. So make sure you get to that punchline and they get to hear, you know, your closing argument. You're not expected to be an expert. So if they ask you a question, it's okay to say, I don't know. They likely aren't going to ask you a question if you're not like, if you don't identify yourself as an attorney or like a bill sponsor or a bill professional. So don't put pressure on yourself to know everything about this bill. That's not your job. Be polite. Testifying, it's a strategic tactic that we use to persuade legislators. So our goal is not to like call them out, put them on blast or debate with them. That's really the role of like the bill experts or your legislative representatives. So don't put too much pressure on you to make or break this moment. You're really there to testify as a witness. Finally, practice, read your testimony out loud a few times. You really want your testimony to come out smoothly and powerful so that it's received by legislators the way that you intended. Next slide. So this year, we have there's three ways to testify. You can testify remotely using a downloaded app that's provided by the legislature. You can testify in person with our team members, ACLU team members, and you can also submit a written testimony prior to the May 25th hearing. So if you're thinking about testimony, we'll send you instructions after the webinar for all three of those options. And we're here to offer our support to you. So if you're drafting your testimony, if you'd like our feedback, we're definitely happy to give that. And so I'm going to drop a link for you in the chat. If you're interested in testifying, please fill this out. It'll help us reach out to you and make sure that we get you set up to testify. And yeah, we'll now open up the room for some questions and comments.
So folks, you can either put questions in the chat, or if you want to take yourself off mute and ask questions, that's fine too. Just, you know, we're here for you to answer these questions that you may have. So how many of you think you're going to testify on this bill? For, okay, got a few here.
This is Rebecca. I'm interested in testifying.
Okay, Julian just put a form in the chat. So if you fill that out, that'll help us keep track of who wants to testify and, you know, which way you want to testify and so on. And Cara, did you want to say something?
I did. I actually just had a question. I definitely am interested in testifying. I want to know how the process works. So what happens after we testify?
That's a good question. So usually what happens is we, everybody has to sign up an hour before, at least an hour before, right? Or is it an hour before? I can't remember, sorry. It's been a long time since I've actually been at the Capitol, as probably a lot of you have too. Do you remember, Julian?
I believe it's 1 hour before. So it looks like the hearing, it starts at 1:30 p.m. on May 25th. I believe that's a Monday. And you can get there early, sign up, and then you should be good to go. There's probably going to be, I don't know if it's the first or only bill. There's usually a few other bills that will be heard.
It's the first.
It's the first. Okay, well, that's really good. So yeah. I would get there at 12:30 and then sign up, and then you should be good to go for the hearing. I don't know, Jen, if you have any more. Jen's on our call and she might have some more details. There's a question about mask mandates at the Capitol. Does anyone know?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at the Capitol, masks are required. I can't promise you enforcement, but people wear them. Maybe the committee members take them off when they're talking. And as for signing up, last I checked, which was like last week, you cannot sign up for in-person testimony online until an hour before the committee hearing, or if it is after doing the floor work in the morning, it's upon adjournment. You can do it at 8:30 in the morning. Honestly, that second one doesn't apply to this. You have an hour before to sign up. And like Julian said, you can also just show up in person and sign up the old fashioned way. Yeah.
They are still doing the WebEx testimony too. So you don't have to go there, and we're going to send out the instructions of how to sign up for testimony. So you don't have to go there. You can do it through WebEx, which, you know, it's easier for some folks, and some of us are still concerned about, you know, what's going on with the pandemic. So you can do that. The third way is written testimony, which you can submit to the committee. And all of that becomes part of the public record. And as Jen is saying in the chat, we have a very detailed how-to document for each of the 3 testimony options that we'll be sending to everybody who attended this call, along with the recording and the fact sheet on the bill itself. So you'll have the same fact sheet that we give to the legislators.
Yeah, we have a question. So this is for Aaron or Ozma. The HOA where I live says no signs of any kind are allowed, but there are plenty of holiday, graduation, and sports signs and flags. How does the bill address HOA's refusal of any signs and flags?
I think that's sort of similar to what Ben Wilkoff asked in the chat a little bit earlier. The bill that's being proposed allows HOAs to establish reasonable content neutral restrictions, size, placement, number, all of that. I would imagine the interpretation of what's reasonable there would not support 0 signs and flags. And I think that there's some case law to back that up as well. So if the HOA has this blanket prohibition, no signs and flags at all, or 0 is the number that they choose, I think that may be subject to a challenge.
Thank you. That was my question.
It looks
So
like
we've had-
Helen. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we've had questions about obscene language in signs. How would an HOA deal with somebody who's, using obscene language? Because
So I can take a shot at that too. The way that the statute is currently written, everyday Coloradans are stifled in their ability to speak and express themselves.
Hey, Asma, we can't hear you. We'll give her a minute for audio to catch up.
Want to display a wide variety. We believe in human rights, and right now these people are restricting speech based on now.
I think you're good now. Try talking now. Let's see.
How about now?
Try again. Zoom is so much fun.
I'm
We're also
sorry,
used
I'm
to
having
this,
some tech
right?
difficulties. Let me try again.
Okay. Everyone's used to this. Yeah, and just to kind of go back to something really quick.
How about
Try again.
now? Any luck?
Yay!
Okay. So I'll start that over. I don't know where I cut out and what happened. So the way that the statute is currently written, every day Coloradans are stifled in their ability to speak and express themselves. And the people who have reached out to us want to display a wide variety of different signs based on content. Thank you, healthcare heroes. We believe in human rights, the thin blue line, the whole thing. And currently they're prevented from doing so. So HOAs are currently restricting speech based on content, and this bill would prevent that. And that content would include obscene speech, as people are concerned about. The HOAs are censoring speech across the state based on views of their own of what is political, what is appropriate for their community, etc. And we don't think that a quasi-governmental body that is supposed to manage your lawn care should be regulating your speech one way or another. And so our constitutional tradition of freedom of expression was developed to encourage robust debate amongst Americans, whether or not there's disagreement, and not to censor specific ideas or beliefs. And this bill is consistent with that and furthers our country's commitment to free speech. So the ACLU strongly believes that we shouldn't silence everyone on the off chance that somebody wants to express offensive speech. And we've received no evidence of people displaying hateful messages on signs or flags in communities that do allow free expression in the form of signs and flags. So the concern, we think is not really there at this point.
All right, thank you. So it looks like, Mike, you have a question. Do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself? And oh, did I just mute you? Yeah, you're good. No, you muted. There you go.
About now.
You're good.
Hi, thank you so much. So with my situation, the HOA changed the entire review guideline or design guidelines based off of my flag, and said only American flags, Colorado flags, and service flags. So if this bill passes, would that overturn what my HOA guidelines now state?
Yes, it would, because it would say that the HOA can't make content discrimination like what they're doing right now.
Okay, but in some of our meetings we've had, I've tried to explain that to them and they still are telling me, and the HOA lawyer has told me that even if this passes, the HOA can still restrict. What they said is they can still restrict freedom of speech. And I find that just absolutely ridiculous if they think that. So that, anyway, I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, well, the whole purpose of the bill is to stop the HOAs from being able to have these types of restrictions.
Okay, so. When I had a lawyer tell me that, I was shocked, but I just wanted to be sure.
Well, the bill has to pass first, so let's hope.
Sure.
That's where your testimony all comes in.
Right. Okay, thank you so much.
And Julian informed me that I missed Helen and Cara. Helen? All right. Cara, did you have a question, or did
I did. So I asked the question at the beginning about what happens after we testify, and I still don't think I'm clear on what's next. So I know that we all, if we show up, we'll testify, or however we went to on the 25th, but I'm not clear on the legislative process. I know the session ends on June 12th, but what happens after the 25th? So
after your testimony, usually there's a vote in the committee, and then the committee will vote to send it to appropriations if there's a fiscal note. If they vote to get it, if they vote for it, to, move it on to the next committee. I don't think there's a fiscal note on this particular bill. Somebody can, Jen or Julian can check that really quick. And then if not, it could go to the committee of the whole, and it has 2 hearings in the committee of the whole, which is the entire house is what that means. And then after that, they send it to the Senate. It goes through a similar process once, and I'm being, really optimistic because I live in an HOA too. And once everybody votes yes, then it goes to the governor to be signed. And I know it feels like the session is, there's not enough time for that, but there is more than enough time for it to get through this whole process. So,
thank you. Can you tell me? So you said when everybody votes yes, that sounds like trying to change like a bylaw in my HOA, right? It takes so many people to actually vote yes. Is it so? In our HOA, it's 2/3 majority. What is it? Just majority? Is it just 51?
Majority, yeah.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Just to clarify one thing, it's on Tuesday, not on Monday. It's on the 25th at 1:30.
Did I say Monday?
I might have started that Monday.
Yeah, sorry. It's Tuesday the 25th. It's close to the end of session, so our brains are leaving us, and we apologize for that. But
and I'm not seeing a fiscal note on the bill.
Yeah, I wouldn't think something like this would happen.
Right.
And Jen also put the bill process diagram in the chat, which is great. We are going to send this recording out to everybody along with other, our very detailed sheet that our policy strategist has put together on how to testify. And we'll send out the fact sheet on the bill and this recording. So is there enough support for it to pass? If you go and testify, you could be the person that, you know, swings that support. I saw a couple of my friends from Highlands Ranch on here, and our representative is on this committee. So, you know, we may want to reach out to him separately too. So, Mr. Van Winkle. Elaine, we know him. Sponsors are, I believe, let me go back.
Cutter and Rodriguez.
Thank you, Julian.
I just happened to be looking at it right when that was asked. So they are Democrats. And I'm trying to find the committee makeup so we can tell you. I'm not sure if with this one, let's see.
So, I mean, I think it's important if you have friends who are, who have been, you know, gotten those nasty grams from their HOAs for things like thin blue line flags or Trump flags or the don't tread on me flag, that they tend to be, you know, more conservative political beliefs. I think it's important that the committee knows this is happening to everybody. And, you know, we've had, I saw a news article about the graduation signs being kind of tagged as something that can't be on people's lawns. And, you know, that kind of is a big deal at the start of the pandemic. That was a way for a lot of us to celebrate our kids' graduations when we couldn't have those big celebrations. And, you know, I've gotten some crazy HOA things over the years, and we could have a whole webinar about the things Delana has gotten, but we won't. Is there an HOA lobby opposing the bill? I don't know. Yeah.
It looks like we have a couple more hands raised. Let's see.
I'm not seeing.
Okay, maybe.
Can you just call
Hi.
out?
Oh yeah.
I had my hand raised, and I'm sorry if I missed this, but I'm trying to find out, and I had emailed this in as well, where is a document or something that allows us to know what is legal and what isn't with your HOA. My HOA covers, I can't lift a finger, it seems, without, you know, I can't plant a shrub, I can't do anything. So I didn't know if there was any document that gives you the parameters. And my second question is, and I'm really just happy to have you guys on the phone, is I've written into the ACLU because I'm trying to find ACLU attorneys in the Larimer County area. I don't live near Denver. I'm up in Estes Park, Colorado.
Yeah, if you're looking for any type of legal intake, we do have a system on our website, and it does cover all of Colorado. So if you go to our ACLU-co.org website, there is, do you need legal help? Click on that, and there is not a form you can fill out. We are a statewide affiliate, so we don't have, you know, lawyers stationed in different areas. You're seeing two of our wonderful attorneys right here, and they work statewide, but it does, for other reasons, we do ask that you go through the website to submit any legal intake that you need.
Okay, thank you. And in regards to just a document, I mean, it just, like I said, it seems like this HOA, I'm liberal and I'm in a very conservative HOA, and it covers everything. And they threatened legal action on me for something that was just so ridiculous. So I just am trying to find out, like, when you read it, the HOA had been defunct. And so now it's back and alive because of the color of my home, which is blue. Thank you very much. But I know everybody's is beige, but I am trying to, you know, when you read the whole document, which was done in 1992, I just feel like I've tried to find some document about what is legal that they can put it in, or can they just put anything in and it's legal? That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well, I know that I have gotten, you know, the nasty gram for leaving a trash can out 5 hours past the limits. For, you know, somebody, my roofer put a sign in my yard. I got it for that. So I think because, and I'm gonna let the lawyers take over here, because we're talking about speech, that's a little different than like saying you have to get your, we just put on a deck and forgot to get it approved. So that was a paperwork nightmare. But yeah, go ahead, Asma, Aria.
So you're asking a very commonly frustrating question, I think, for people who live in covenant controlled communities. And the sort of very dissatisfying answer is that HOAs do have a lot of latitude to put things into the governing documents that will control your community. The question that you are sort of touching on can span a range of different areas of law, but the bulk of it is real property law, which is something Ariel and I are not experts in by any means. So if you do have questions about the validity of some of the provisions of your governing documents or what the HOA can or cannot do, I think you should consult with a real property attorney. Those are the people who are going to be your best bet on guiding you through that process. In very broad terms, there are things that the HOA could put into its governing document. For example, this speech provision that would be, you know, contrary to law or contrary to public policy. So there's a little bit of room to challenge that type of thing. But the color of your house, where the bins go, all that, I think you need to talk to a property lawyer to figure out what's going on in your community specifically.
Yeah, no, my color of my house, they tried to fight it. I'm fine because it's the color of, they have earth tones and the earth is 75% blue. So I won there. So it's not a big deal. And it is a pretty blue. But I've just run into a situation because I'm a single woman and lots of things. I'm multiracial, you name it. But it's basically, my frustration is they all have a lot of money. I don't. And so somebody has built a deck and it's not, I don't know why it's such a big deal to me. It really shouldn't, because these are all first world problems, right? But it's right up onto my property line, and they somehow have gotten it cleared. And I just said, hey, you know, no big deal. I just want to put something up so I don't have to have it in my bedroom window. And then they threatened legal action on me when I said that the town said that I could put up a fence. And then somehow, even though the town was trying to fight the deck, money, I don't know what, that's just my assumption, passed. And all of a sudden, within less than 24 hours, the deck got cleared. But I do have it's not that big a deal, but I guess I'm just trying, when you get threatened and you're the only single woman in the whole area, and I mean, it's a cul-de-sac. It's not like this massive HOA with, like, you know, it's like, I think 12 homes, but I'm just trying to stand up for myself, but not be a jerk. And so I was hopeful, you know.
It is hard and it's tricky. And you asked initially if there was a document or something that lays out what they can and can't do. And unfortunately there isn't. So your best bet when you're dealing with these specific types of situations or HOAs to try to consult with a real property lawyer.
Okay. So then when you do that, when you're dealing with the ACLU, so the real property lawyer, they can then, and then if it feels like I'm being discriminated against, does that then fall over into the ACLU or no?
So we do, you know, deal with matters of discrimination, but the vast majority of our work is about discrimination at the hands of the government. And one of the tricky things about HOAs is that they aren't governmental entities. And while there are some, you know, creative legal arguments that we've been exploring about trying to hold HOAs accountable, it's a lot harder for us to be involved in something like that.
Okay, got it. All right. Well, you guys do great work, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cara, am I just forgetting to lower your hand? Is that what?
No,
Okay.
I lower my hand when I'm done with my question. I just have lots of questions, as Ariel and Ozma can account for. No, my question is just in regards to, we have plenty of folks who want to support this bill, but they don't want to testify. They don't have, they haven't necessarily had a personal experience to share, but they want to help. They want it to pass. What can I tell those people that they can be doing between now and, I don't know, is it next Tuesday? Because the vote happens on Tuesday as well. Is that correct?
The first vote for that Transportation and Local Government Committee is on Tuesday.
So we'll know on Tuesday whether or not it's moving forward or not, correct?
Yes, we should.
So is there anything they can do between now and Tuesday to help that move forward?
If their representative is on the committee, they can call them and urge them to vote yes. You can also just urge the committee to vote yes as a whole. Sometimes committee members will be like, well, you're not my constituent, so whatever. Once it passes out of the committee, I know. Once it passes out of the committee and goes to the House, they can definitely at that point urge their member to vote yes. But again, if they know someone who has had a personal experience, they can encourage that person. And written testimony is fine too. So you can just submit written testimony if people want. They don't have to get into specifics and things like that, but they can just say, I had an experience and this is what it was. They don't have to tell us where they live and, who, was taking away their free speech and all that kind of stuff. But so, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Okay, great. Do we have any other questions? Julian, did I miss anything in the chat?
I have my hand up.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ray Rodriguez. Full disclosure, I moved into a new community, brand new build that allowed us to create our own rules and regulations. And so I joined the HOA board, was elected to it, so that because I had heard so many horror stories about what it's like to live in an HOA. So I've lived in this HOA and been serving on the board since. And I received a notice from our management company saying that this bill would increase costs for all HOAs, which would then be passed on to the people. And so I'm immediately skeptical of it, because myself being a liberal, I'm immediately skeptical of any big businesses opposing any regulations, right? So what I'd like to know is, what would you suggest, or do you have any sources or links to resources to information to counter that argument that this is just going to raise costs for everyone? And I have a second part after you answer that question.
Oh, I muted myself. Sorry. They're trying to say the bill would raise costs.
Yeah, the management company sent out an email to all of the residents asking people to oppose it, because they say that it'll raise costs for all HOAs and that those costs will have to be passed on to the occupants.
I think
My
that's
HOA
something I
did the
hear a
same
lot.
exact thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from the management company, they sent a letter out to the entire community saying exactly what Ray just said. It's going to raise costs on all of us, and but yeah, so good question.
Did they say how? Like, was it
all of the additional regulations?
It's actually, I mean, in my view, it's less work for them now, because now they can't restrict speech based on content, so they don't have to go through whatever processes they were going through to police this. So, I mean, maybe they're saying they're not going to be able to fine the residents for violations. But, I mean, I don't think we should be fining residents for their free expression anyway.
Thank you. So, okay, I just didn't know if there was any legitimacy to that claim because they sent out an email to everyone. And I imagine a lot of other HOAs are doing the same as far as sending this misinformation out.
Yeah, what HOA do you live in that they sent, what property management company is it that sent out that email?
It's Sienna Park.
Okay.
And also, the second part to my question was, it's in committee right now. Are there any specific representatives that we need to target? Because as you know, it's wasting our time to target representatives that are already on our side. And it's wasting our time to target the representatives that are 100% no and will never be changed. To me, it makes more sense. It's more efficient to target the ones that are swayable. So I always try to target those. Or are they already is there already enough support among the, this is co-sponsored by Democrats and they have the majority. So is there already enough support in the committee that it'll get out of there? And I just wanted to know if there's any, who we need to target.
Right now at this time, that's an open question, and we'll be getting more information on that as we go along. If we find that there are people we need to target, we will send out an action alert and let people know about that. But right now, we really don't have a good answer to that, unless Osma or Ariel know. Any different?
Perfect. That's all I was wanting to know. And I would love to, if possible, I'll submit my email in the chat. I would love to talk more about, talking points against those emails that are going out, because I'm the president of the HOA, and I want to make sure that I hold our management company accountable to these emails that they're sending out.
Yeah, I would ask them what costs are going to go up. And I see that Jean Ann has her hand up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The bill that was going to cost money is a different bill, I believe. I wrote to everyone on that committee about 2 weeks ago, and that bill did not go forward. So you might check. I don't think it's this bill that they're asking you to support. They were wanting to impose regulations on HOAs where you had to have an outside review company, and they were going to pass all those costs on to us. But I think that's a different one.
Right. Well, hopefully it is. Thanks, Jean Ann. Okay, so do we have any other questions? Because we're almost at an hour.
Hi, my name is Annabelle Bates. I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand, so I apologize.
Oh, no worries.
I came on late, so I apologize if my question is repetitive. I just want to understand my understanding, there's 2 different bills out, right? That are about HOA changes. Yes, no?
Well, that's what Jean Ann was saying, that there was another bill and that one has died.
So we don't spin our wheels. What are the bill numbers? So when we are referencing this bill support to our elected officials, we are talking about the same thing. So which is the one that didn't pass and which is the one that's going to come forward on Tuesday?
The one that we're working on and that is coming forward to the Transportation and Local Government Committee is 1310. So okay. HB, which stands for House Bill 21-1310, is the bill that we are concerned with. I am unfamiliar with the other bill. I'm sure somebody is right now looking it up. Probably.
Right? Yeah.
My colleagues.
Okay. So do we know why the other one failed? So
I think Jean Ann might know.
That bill wanted to regulate HOAs and have all these things that had to be done to try to protect the homeowners, but they were going to make the homeowners pay all these additional costs on those regulations. So I really think it failed because, for example, I wrote against it because I don't need that done. I know how to get things changed in my HOA. We put in 5 board members. And we felt passing costs along was not appropriate. So I think the committee agreed with that. I heard back from several on the committee and they agreed with me. A couple did not, but I assume when the vote was cast, I know in our HOA, many people wrote letters and got the word out that we didn't like this bill.
Yeah, my understanding of that bill was to have a third-party mediator. Am I referencing the same one?
Yes.
And
yes.
in certain instances, I thought that to be favorable because it's almost like the Supreme Court. If you've got a board of directors on your HOA that is stacked very conservative or in the other direction, and you're appealing and the covenants are written a little gray, things cannot go in your favor, right? So then you would go to a third party instead of being shut down on the spot. So from that perspective, I thought it would be favorable to have that option. And in our covenants, we do have, or I'm not even sure if covenants is the right word, but we can always seek a third party like appeal, but it does come with a cost. We would have to pay for that if we wanted to go above our board.
I don't want to get off topic here, but I agree with you. Sometimes you feel like you're stymied. We've been working on signs with our old board since a year ago. So a group of us got together, put in enough people on the board. We now kind of have a majority to keep moving forward on the sign. So we're still fighting it, but you know, I think the best way to do that is to talk to your neighbors and change that board.
It did. What I was fined for having a "We Believe" sign in our yard. Within 2 days of me putting it up, I received a notice. I was really surprised. Up until that point, I was not at all involved in our community. And we had congratulatory school signs up all year. And none of those signs were ever asked to be taken down because we were in the time of COVID and it was nice to recognize those students. But when my sign came up, it did ruffle some feathers. So then I appealed it and lost, of course, because it does say in the covenants, no signs are allowed. I then went and put my sign in my window because I thought that was my personal property. And I was fined again. So this time I read our covenant language in detail. There's a difference between a lot and there's a difference between a dwelling. And I argued on that. I wrote letters and I received a letter back from our lawyers through our management company, Vista Management Company. I wish I had that letter today. I need to go dig it up because it says we lose our rights as soon as we move into a covenant community. It was a very cold and scary letter. And it was designed to shut me up. It said if I wanted to pursue this, they could put liens on my house, etc. And my point on that letter of when I fought the sign to be in my window was my right to speech. I can say what I want from my window, but so overnight they changed the language. All they did was add window and dwelling to our covenant language. I don't even think our board of directors voted on it. I knew the language inside out. I'd memorized it, so I knew what stuck out. So I then ran for board and I got on. So, and so I'm just an advocate for the community. But before my encounter with the lawyers, I used my 3 minutes at our HOA meeting. Instead of ranting, I asked for action. And I asked for our community to vote to change the language to permit signs again. But it failed. We were right in the middle of elections, and I just think our community didn't want to see any more political signs up. But at the same time, we also lost the ability to put up our congratulatory school signs. So just a little tidbit there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Well, we are, go ahead. Oh,
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, it seems to me like HOA management companies and HOA boards should be in sync. And then I live in a HOA community for the first time in my life, although I've been a realtor for 42 years, so I'm familiar with them and you know what they can do. But as soon as we moved here, I got this nasty letter about pots and a bird bath in my front yard. So I decided that I was going to march around the community, which I did. There's 136 homes here, and 25 people had bird baths in their yards. So I wrote a long, thoughtful letter about all the things that everybody else did and said, you know, is there a statute of limitations? Well, it turned out that that letter came from the HOA management company, and the HOA board knew nothing about it. Because I called and said, what the heck is this? Why didn't you knock on my door and say, welcome to the community, by the way? But you know, it's just this nasty and personal letter. So they would respond in a certain period of time. They did not respond in a timely manner. So I thought, okay, it's solved. We're okay. But then they did send the same letter again and said, you're out of compliance. We don't think that this should be rewritten. We don't care what you say, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't quite like that. And so I hired an attorney, and I let it be known that I hired an attorney. And I tried to find an attorney who dealt with HOAs, and I could not find any. I even called the board, the real estate commission, and said, you know, who deals with HOAs? So what's the authority between the HOA management company and the board? I mean, does the HOA management company have the right to act on behalf of the board, say they're acting on behalf of the board when they actually are not?
I think if the board gives the management company that power, yeah.
Well, how do we know if they do as a member of the HOA?
There's probably some written contract between them that you could see.
That we could, so I should ask to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, you should ask to see what the contract that governs the relationship between the board and the management company.
The letter that my attorney wrote to them, which got them off my back, said, you have a limitation if it's not fairly adjudicated to the entire community. And I had evidence that it was not. And I talked to all of those people and said, how long have you had your bird bath? Some of them said 20 years.
Yeah.
So, but the language is so loose, you know, that.
It is. HOAs, you know, they really do spark a lot of contention in communities.
Right. Well, and it becomes so divisive. And certainly we have a divisiveness without having it in the community. So, all right. Thanks. This has been great. I really appreciate it.
All right. One last call for questions, and then we'll let you all get on with your days. And we'll be sending stuff out later today. If not today, it'll be first thing tomorrow, I promise. All right. Well,
just
Barbara,
one comment.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, based on that last question, typically the management company takes direction from the boards. So if you're trying to change policy or anything like that regarding your bird feeders, a good idea is to go to your annual, or not your annual, but your monthly board meeting. Those are usually open to the public, and just talk to people, including specifically the board president, and just, you know, get their feel for what they think might be a good idea as far as changing those policies. And the HOA management companies do definitely take direction from the boards.
Oh, I did that. I mean, immediately, that was my first step before I, you know, went too far down the line, got all the information. But, you know, it was like the not me.
Okay. Barbara, you had a question?
I'm sure that ACLU has dealt with this a lot. I would imagine one of the fears is that people are going to put up signs that say, I don't know, trash the Capitol, or who knows what. And I heard you say that there really haven't been these outrageous signs, but it's just like, well, we'll deal with it if it happens, kind of thing. How would that be answered in the committee discussion? We're really afraid that people are going to say, anarchist rule, who knows what.
So since I answered that question the first time, I would say the principle, it remains the same. It's, yes, there can be concern about that kind of thing, but the free expression clause in our state constitution and in the federal constitution contemplated that. Americans in our historical tradition want to encourage robust debate, and that includes what could be perceived as offensive speech. What's offensive to me is not offensive to you, and that's why our free speech principles are different than others around the world. So I don't think it's a matter of we'll deal with it when it comes. It's just the reality of the traditions of free expression and free speech in this country they accommodate this type of thing. We believe that silencing everybody and censoring everybody is just not worth it, on the off chance that you get some offensive speech trickling through.
I see Vic, you have your hand up?
Yeah, let me put my hand down now that you've called on me. About the question of the relationship between boards and condominium association or condominium management companies. I was on the management side many years ago in my youth when that business was in its infancy. Yes, they take their guidance from the board. The board has to read the contract and what they are going to enforce very carefully when they set up that contract, and they can be fired usually very quickly. In other words, if the board votes them out, if there's a term left on the contract, you might have to live with that, but they can be removed and changed. And that means that enough of the homeowners need to show up at a meeting, possibly the annual meeting, and say they're unhappy with that specific company, and let's not have them doing this because they obviously are exceeding what we want them to be doing. So that was my comment on that discussion. Other than that, it's been a very informative and very interesting hour today. So thank you once again.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. All right. The only other hand I see up is Helen. Okay, great. Helen, you want to testify? That's wonderful. We will be in touch, like I said, later today, tomorrow. So we are going to go ahead and end our meeting today. We thank you all so much for coming. And I have to say, this is one of the most engaged groups I've seen in a while. HOAs must really, we all love our HOA, don't we? For those of us who live in them. But anyways, have a wonderful afternoon. We hope you all will testify on Tuesday. Feel free to contact your representatives about this. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You have my email and Julian's email. So thanks again. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thanks for taking this up.
Yeah.